Heavy Podcast, hosted by Craig Gonzalez. What's up, guys? Welcome to Get Heavy Podcast. Another beautiful episode coming at you. Tonight, we have a very special guest, the Boss Dog himself, one of my favorite artists, owner and proprietor of these hats, many fucking killer art pieces, t-shirts. You can see him in Zoomies. You can see him in all sorts of shit. Just a real unique, creative fucking artist. I'm very excited to talk to him. Go ahead and rate, subscribe, review, comment, tell your fucking friends about this podcast. You can follow it on all audio podcast outlets. Watch us on YouTube. Check out the patreon.com/GetHeavyPodcast for all of these episodes early. Usually about a week early. And you get early access, all kinds of cool stuff over there for $1 a month. Also, please check out the new merch. Look at this shit, dude. Get Heavy Podcast merch, the localshop.com/GetHeavyPodcast for all of that. Having said all that, tonight's podcast is sponsored by Salzer's Records. For over 50 years, they have been fucking killing it. Independent record shop in Ventura, California, 5777 Valentine Road here in Ventura off Victoria exit. If you like used records, if you like new records, if you like CDs, DVDs, tapes even, killer gift shop upstairs for all of you people that like to buy gifts, purses, clothes, jewelry, crystals, anything you want. An amazing head shop for all of your bongs and water pipes and any other thing you might need for smoking. Also, for all you little freaks, they got an incredible adult shop as well attached to that. So check that stuff out. Like I said, big shout out to the Salzers family. Can't say enough awesome shit about that store, about Jim, RIP. 5777 Valentine Road, open 11 to 7 a.m. 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. And let's go support, man. Check out the video store across the street, Salzer's Video. Last video store on earth. Much appreciated on the sponsorship. I have nothing but good things to say about that place. You guys have heard my spiel before. I met my wife there. I met every one of my best friends. I started all of my major bands in that place. Salzer's Records is the shit. Having said all that, enjoy the episode.
Good.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm here, man. I'm here. Am I glitching out? I feel like your internet's glitching out maybe a little bit, but
yeah, I'm in the desert and it's like 1998 here. It's just...
yeah, I was gonna say, man. I'm a desert rat myself. I was born out there in well, I say Lancaster because no one knows where I'm from, right? So I don't know where you're born, but I was originally born in a town called Trona, which is in China Lake, Ridgecrest, way the fuck out there, where they test nukes. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I grew up in a really crazy small town until I was about 10. You know what I mean?
Is that California?
It's Mojave, right? But it's like the backside of Mojave on the border of Death Valley.
Have you heard that podcast, California City?
No.
Oh, you should check it out because it's about that area.
Is it?
And
okay.
This woman from the LA Times did it, and it's about how they basically like in the 70s and 80s, like they started like getting these people in LA to invest in real estate out in Mojave in the desert area.
Right.
And it's like where like all the cliches of like buying land in the desert, getting ripped off basically come from.
Oh, totally, dude.
There's this whole town called California City that like apparently like 80% of it is owned by like these poor people like in LA who like.
Oh, dude. So I lived where I grew up is about an hour fucking more into the desert from Cal City, right? We used to go to Cal City as a vacation to go to fucking motorcycles and shit, dude. You know
hell yeah.
So like, I have a weird thing. I grew up in like a gummo kind of desert situation. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't, I wasn't diddling girls with Down syndrome or anything, but it was fucking chaos. You know what I mean? And so I have a hard time like really buying into this desert lore. You know what I mean? Of like, oh, and it is beautiful. There's many things that are about it are awesome, but man, you know what I mean? That some of the people in these areas and the fucking way in which my family and it's just fucking nuts, bro. So I did like anything that's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do a story about the desert. I'm like, fuck, okay, good luck,
Right.
dude. Have fun. I'm here at the beach. I really like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and
it's
I go
crazy
visit.
too,
I
'cause
visit family and all that, but I just don't. I fucking very little interest about discovering more trauma in the desert. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean I hear you. It's funny because I think that people have this perception of it. You know, it's like the Urban Outfitters, like
Oh yeah.
Joshua Tree kind of mystique, and
Mm-hmm.
but when you get out here and you're out here, it's like when people see those pictures, they don't realize that like 40 yards off to the side, there's like a meth lab that's like an
Totally.
illegal pit
Yeah.
bull like breeding
Fighting ring.
ground.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a giant Confederate flag flying, and
Totally.
like
Yeah.
that's the fucking desert. You
That's the
know,
fucking
like
desert, dude. I mean, it is. It's such a hard reality for some yuppies, dude. You know what I mean? Like in that Cal City, I know the story relatively well. On basically, they got told this is going to be the next Palm Springs, right? This is going to
yeah,
be the fucking spot. And they got out there and got fucking steamrolled by the yokels, dude. I mean, just
yeah.
sold property that you could never build on. There ain't water anywhere fucking close. Good luck, motherfuckers. And also, guess what? The place flash floods every year. Yeah,
Yeah,
fucking good luck keeping a house on not on stilts, dude. You know?
yeah. I mean, even out where we're at, like I always have friends being like, "Yo, there, I saw like some land for sale for like 20 grand," and I'm like, "Yeah, you shouldn't buy it because you can't put a well in there. They
Yeah,
won't run
yeah,
electrical out there. Like,
yeah,
you're not going to be able to build on it,
yeah.
you
How
know?"
good are you at 18th century fucking mechanics, motherfucker? I don't think so. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a trip. So what? How are you from there? What? How did you end up there? What happened? How? Where are you from?
No.
Give me your origin
Well,
story.
my wife and I moved here like going on 3 years ago from Oregon, so from
Oh, okay,
Portland.
nice.
But we, you know, essentially we were just so fed up with Oregon, like in all these different ways. And this is the second time I've been on a podcast where I just started talking shit about Oregon. But,
Hey,
you know, man, I mean, honestly, I think what a lot had to do with it was just simply the fact that like I have seasonal affective disorder. And I finally realized it after 20 years of basically growing up in Oregon. And I just hate the rain. And so,
yeah,
you know, my wife literally was almost like born and raised in Portland, and we just wanted to like a new adventure, and we
yeah.
like wanted to move to California and start Boss Dog full time,
Mm-hmm.
and we needed someplace where it was like affordable, and the high desert still has pockets that are like really affordable.
Totally.
I've been out here, like I have an old bandmate that moved to like Joshua Tree like 7 years ago, and
Okay.
so I was familiar with the area, and you know, we just knew that we could afford to live out here. We moved to like 29 Palms, which is it's like the more gutter side of the high desert,
Mm-hmm.
but incredibly affordable. And like we're mid-century modern freaks, and they have like really rad houses
Oh yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know, like in Portland would be like 800 grand, and so it's like out here, it's like, oh shit, we can get a house and we can live out here and just basically do our own thing. And so it was really strategic in certain ways where we knew that we wanted to do a business full time, and this is a, you know, really cheap
The
place
way
to
to
live.
do it, right? Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I spent so much of my younger years, you know, I grew up playing punk rock and metal and all this shit too, you know what I mean? I'd love to hear like your history on that stuff, but over the years, right? I have kids, I have children, I have three, I'm married, fucking blah blah blah. I am. There was many days where I thought I'll die in this gutter. This is my fucking town. You know what I mean? And it's like I'll fucking live here forever.
Oh yeah.
I have to live in a studio fucking basement. And then you get a little older and you're like, I'd like to not like I'd like to be able to walk into my backyard and take a piss, dude. Like that'd be cool, you know? And now eventually it's like you just start moving and you get to that point where you're like, I don't want to fucking be around anybody, dude. Like I don't need any more
Yeah.
friends. I'm good, bro. And the seasonal shit is rough up there. It's fucking rough. It's I mean, it rains what 6 months, 9 months out of the year almost.
Yeah, I mean, it rains perpetually nonstop for a solid 7 months.
Right.
And, you know, right now is when everyone goes to visit Portland. And like, I get text messages from people and they're like, dude, Portland's the most amazing city in the world. And it is. When it's sunny out, it's great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's only sunny for like 4 weeks in the summer.
Right.
You know, it's changed a lot, a little bit, you know, thanks to global warming. It's the summers have gotten a little bit hotter, but
Oh yeah, I saw
it's,
the siding melting off people's houses up there at 115. You know what I mean?
yeah, but that makes it kind of worse because they don't have air conditioning up there. So
They're not
now
ready.
it's like 7 months out of the year where it's 34 degrees, driving rain every day. The sun
Mhm.
sets at 4 p.m. and then you go into the summer, and now we're in the like high 90s for like 6 weeks, and no
Yeah.
one has air conditioning. So
Yeah,
it's like
totally. You know, and it's a trick. It's a big trick too, because as when I toured, I played music a lot. We'd tour up there in the summer, and you'd get up there, and everyone's happy, having a fucking great time. It's fucking party time. You know what I mean? And then it isn't until you do a tour in the winter or the fall or the spring or any other fucking time of the year, you get there and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is the real Pacific Northwest. You know,
Yeah.
and people are mad. They're over it. You know what I mean? No one wants the hospitalities go way down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, fuck you, out of towner. Get out of here. Come see us in the
Yeah.
summer when we're having fun, you know?
There was a time when I really, I did appreciate gray days and the rain and stuff. So it does have its place.
Yeah.
I think I stayed there a little too long and just got kind of salty about it. But I was one of those people where it's like, the city kind of blew up. And,
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of it was like influx from California. And suddenly it was like, it went from being a small city to a large city very quick.
Right.
And it's like the same infrastructure problems that San Francisco had, where there was no rent control. There was 2-lane roads everywhere instead of like, there was just no parking structures. So it went from like this little city that was like really easy to this big place. And I mean, I realized that I was complaining about it and talking about it like I didn't like it. So I might as well just fucking move, because I didn't want to be one of those guys that was like sitting around complaining about the place that I lived in. So now it's like, Portland, I love you. If anyone's listening, you're amazing. The rad thing is, it's like really inclusive. It's really, the politics are off the chart, you literally live in a bubble. And I like the first 6 months we left Portland, we were like taking pictures of like Trump signs and shit, being like, look at this is crazy. I've never seen one of these before, just not even realizing that like we had been in this place that for so long, where you're like debating about like what kind of vegan gluten-free options, the fucking local like homeless shelter should give out. And it's like, then you go like, you get out of there and you're like, oh shit, like reality sucks.
The rest of the world is different, man. Yeah. I mean, as much as I'm sure real Portlanders hate Portlandia, man, it highlighted a bunch of funny shit about that town. You know what I mean? Because I've spent enough time up there to really see the elements, and it fucking, I mean, it cracked me up. You know what I mean? And I love to poke like at myself. I don't care. I don't have an ego or shit like that. So I just thought it was fucking hilarious.
If you can't laugh at that show, then I think that you've been in Portland for too long. Because I mean, it is super funny. And like my most Portlandia-esque experience that I can sum up is Sam and I lived in North Portland, the last place we lived in, and it was rad. It was like across from like a 4-lane highway, across from a junkyard in the middle of nowhere. But it was great because we had like space and we were close to the city, but it was kind of but it was really sketchy and I had all this weird shit. Our only neighbors were this couple that lived right next door to us. And they were Satan worshipers, and they were nudists, and they also were car mechanics. So they were always home. They were always working on their cars, butt fucking naked.
In the nude.
And I swear to God, like, and that's Portland. You know what I mean? Like that sums up Portland. Because the thing that was like, crazy about it is like, we were like, oh, I mean, whatever. It didn't faze us at all. Like what fazed us was like, we just didn't get along with one of the guys. Like we just thought he was really annoying. Right. But like, he had a fence. And so like, as long as we didn't look over the fence, we didn't actually see them from the waist down. And they would come over to the fence and they would like, be like, hey, how's it going? And we'd be like, oh, good. Right.
Dude, I mean, look, man, I've worked on some cars. Not one part of me wants grease on my dick.
I know, right?
You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing I can picture is this guy fucking hanging dong in the fucking engine compartment.
It just seems like a really risky thing to do.
So risky, dude. It's the riskiest thing you can do. He's like, you know what I'm going to do? Pick up fucking shards of glass today naked. You know what I mean? Like,
there's sparks, like what if you slam the hood accidentally? Like,
oh my God, dude. Zipping your dick up and your zipper is one thing, but slamming your own fucking cock, dude, that's a rough one, man. That's a rough one.
So that was like, that was always like, we live in Portland, that pretty much
very Portland, dude. I like it. But so you grew, I mean, you said you lived there a long time, but you played in bands and stuff like that. I mean, what'd you grow up involved in?
I played in bands, like I would say more as a kid, like as a teenager and in my 20s, early 20s, especially. So it was, a big part of like my foundation, you know. But like I think a lot of people, you know, like I had, it was just a lot, man. Like I honestly, it was a really amazing time. I think, you know, I think anyone that gets to go on tour and have those experiences, like it's the best thing in the world, you know?
Yeah.
So it was a huge part of my life, but it was also like, I was also such a fuck up, and, you know, I was fucking crazy as hell.
Oh,
And
really?
really, really not, you know, I was always in bands where I was attracting other, you know, shout out to all my bandmates, but just attracting other fuck ups. And we were like, you know, we're all alcoholics, and it was just bananas crazy. And that has really great times to it. And it also has a lot of like heartbreak to it, because, you know, there's a certain point where it's like you're in these great bands, but you can never get your shit together. And, you know, you have these opportunities, and we had these close moments with, you know, getting signed to a label, getting kicked off the label, you know, because we're just, you know, I was always in those bands. So
Yeah.
it was,
What
it was
band was
fun,
there a main one that you did for a long time? And what kind of music was it? Was it in the vein of?
when I was like early, like teenager and late teens, especially, it was like I was just played punk, like really shitty punk, and then kind of got into hardcore.
Like
And
karate hardcore? Like the hardcore, like New York hardcore kind of shit?
no, like this is West Coast, so
Oh,
this
okay.
is like, you know, and I was really into like kind of arty, like math stuff, like botch, kind of like
Okay.
weird shit.
Yeah. I
Um,
was a huge Botch fan. I'm a huge fucking Coalesce fan. You
oh,
know,
right.
I love all that Pacific North. Well, I know the Coalesce isn't, you know, but
Yeah.
that genre of music, those Botch era days, the fucking all those bands, man. I mean,
I really like, you know, and I'll stand by it to this day, even though it didn't, you know, it doesn't always age well for everyone, but I was really into like Southern California's like weird art, you know, all the San Diego bands that were kind of shaped like the late 90s and early 2000s. Like I really liked what Rhode Island put out for a minute, you
sure.
know, like in
Yeah.
the early 2000s, mid 2000s. So there was you know, I liked all the weird shit, and was really motivated by that. And so
Yeah.
like the bands I was in was like, you know, we were always trying to like, you know, it was like one of those things where it's like we were too young to realize we should just be making music, and instead we were just trying to impress other bands and ourselves
Right.
by
That's
writing
like
like
that's
really
how it
complicated,
goes when you're
you know,
young,
like
man.
writing like really complicated time signatures, and like, you know, doing all this stuff that was just like
Yeah.
probably really pretentious. And,
Yeah,
you know, if I look
emotionally
back on it.
screaming with no fucking instruments behind you for a minute, and then going into
Yeah.
an odd breakdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
spent my days
Some
doing
of
it,
it
man.
just
I
didn't
fucking I
age
feel you,
very
bro.
well.
I feel you,
Yeah.
man. But I mean, I remember, you know, growing up here in Southern California, you know, those bands would tour through, and I was one of the only ones in my town that liked that shit like a lot. Obviously, Converge is, you know, on the next level anyway. But those like, there was a band called Minor Times I really liked a lot. Anodyne, all these
Yeah.
like crazy fucking mathy tech hardcore bands that I really loved. You know what I mean? And it wasn't a big thing here because obviously the Nardcore, you know, we're from Ventura, Oxnard. Nardcore is a massive fucking thing here,
Right.
you know. And I kind of tried to blaze my own path with music as far as like bringing something that wasn't just like straight fucking 80s hardcore, you know what I mean, into my town and stuff. But I felt for many years you always write for your friends and your bands, and then it took me many years to really write for myself, you know what I mean, and find my own voice, you know, much like art, right? I mean, you know,
Yeah.
when you start doing art as a kid, what are you're tracing fucking Conan or doing whatever you're doing, then eventually you find your own fucking voice, right? You know, so it's always interesting.
For sure. And I think if you're a creative or a creator or whatever, you know, however you want to describe it, like all these experiences build, you know.
Right.
Because like when I was in bands, it's like I was always a kid that did all the flyers. You know, my dream, like when I grew up, like I knew I didn't know, I couldn't verbalize it, but I was a kid, like when I was into skating, I was like mostly the thing that I really obsessed over was the art and the t-shirts. And
Right.
then when I was in bands, like, dude, I mean, I just obsessed over every punk, the perfections of punk, you know, black, white on black t-shirts, and silk screening my band's t-shirts and my band's albums. And I had to
Yeah.
do all the record, you know, if we went on tour, I was like telling people and you know, San Diego, I'll do the flyer, you know, like I always wanted to do the
Right.
flyer,
Right.
you know. And then like in my 20s, I worked as a bartender, and it's like every bar I worked at, I was like, can I put on shows? I want to do shows because I want to be the flyer for the shows, you know.
Right.
So
What
you
was the
take all those
band? What was the
experiences.
band you were in? What is the name?
I was in a band called Necktie Party, and then a
Okay.
band called Headphone. So,
Okay. Cool.
and then bunch of spin-off bands that didn't, you know.
Sure. Didn't pan out. But I mean, obviously, you've always been into art, right? I mean, you've always been an artist. I mean, did that start young? I mean, what was it that drew you? Obviously, skateboarding.
Yeah.
Skateboarding was a huge thing for me. You know, finding out about punk and bands and metal. You start to look through the credits of, well, who the fuck was that band during that part and all this stuff.
Right.
But the board art, the fucking, I mean, all that shit just it opened my eyes to this massive world that I had no idea about, right? So what was it for you that started that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean,
Discovering art.
When I was a kid, I drew. I mean, you know, like probably a lot of people, I think, like I just drew all the time, and what I was obsessed with was comic, like what you said, like imitating comic book characters and imitating Dungeons and Dragons. You know,
Okay.
For whatever reason, I don't know how I came across it, but I got into old copies of Dungeons and Dragons, or I found like a stack of, you know. So I'm like 8 years old, and I would just sit there and I would like imitate drawing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or drawing, you know, Spider-Man or a dragon or, you know, whatever I could. And even then, like I remember like, you know, being in 5th grade, and I think I was in school choir, and I drew, they had like a choir thing, and I was like, can I do the flyer for it? So I did. It was Spider-Man swinging through like the air, and then it said like our choral group, you know. And I'm like, I'm like looking back on it, I'm like, that was where my brain was always, you know.
Dude, that's cool, man. So I wanted to, because I mean, I'm a big fan of the art and all that stuff. Obviously, I've been watching it for a long time. I got one of the OG hats, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you? What is there biker art influence? Because I see a lot. I grew up with a lot of fucking bikers, and I grew up around 70s Easy Riders and all these fucking artists that, you know, it's a Ghost Rider through the desert, and there's always an SS bolt on it, of course. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, were you influenced by that stuff at all too, or I mean, does it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, 1000%. Especially, I'm not so much now because I feel like, you know, I don't know. I could get all pretentious about that, but I definitely, man, like my dad was, he rode motorcycles, and definitely was probably what introduced me into just the idea or the culture. And then, you know, like probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I did actually a lot of art and design for stuff that was more in that world. Like I used to help out with like Show Class magazine, like a bunch of like biker stuff. And to be honest, man, like I had bikes forever. This is right now, I don't have any bikes with me, but I kind of consciously didn't want to be in that world where I was like on Instagram posting pictures of my bike. And I'm not trying to put that down at all. It just wasn't my scene. Like, well,
it's a lane, right? It's a full lane right there.
Yeah.
That whole bike.
And then, I mean, and not to like say, you know, like honestly, like the past few years, I kind of just politically just was like, I can't fucking deal with this anymore. Like, I kind of got tired of the politics of that world. I got tired of like, yeah, you know, there's a lot of stuff in that world where it seems cool, and you see like a lot of like young hipsters get into it and stuff. And then it's like, dude, it's born on the back of like a lot of really fucked up ideas.
100%.
And I think Sam and I, as we kind of got okay with being a little bit more like political and embracing things, that we were like, fuck it, you know, we're going to pick a side. We picked the side of being like, we're going to go full on this way. And a lot of that biker world, we just were like, all right, later, we're not into it, you know? Well, and I know some people that can navigate both, but for me, I was like, I don't want to try and do that shit. So,
well, you can appreciate bikes, right? You can appreciate riding, and I think the hard reality is when you grow up in the MC culture, like for real, grow up in it. It's not great, right? I mean, I grew up around a lot of gangs, a lot of fucking 1%ers, and they weren't. And I'm not here to blast anybody, and I have a lot of friends that are still in these things, but that life is a really specific fucking lane that doesn't end great for a lot of people. And it's based in violence. It's based in racism. It's based in fucking a culture that, as a punk, I hate. I don't like it. I don't.
Yeah.
So when I like my mom dated a bunch of shitty bikers when I was young. You know, I tried to stab a couple of them after they beat her up. You know what I mean? I grew up in this world where you're like, fuck these people, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
I gotta argue with a 50-year-old fucking speed freak right now, and I'm 14. Go fuck yourself, you know. And
Yeah.
so and you know, I'm not saying all these guys are tourists because I rejected that culture for many years because of what I grew up in, you know. And I really like riding bikes. I like Harleys and all that stuff. But I'm with you in the fact that when you immerse yourself in that actual true culture and realize what it is and what it can be, right? It's not necessarily what it is now, but it's scary shit, dude. And it's shit that normal people don't get, you know what I mean? They don't see it, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, it's cool to have a fucking cool old banger, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and do all that shit and make it a bobber and all this stuff. That's cool, man. But you start dealing with real biker shit, dude, and there's two ways it goes. It's you're in jail or fucking dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, there's so much of like, there's like Tor Drake, who does CC Motorcycles and does the One Show, and my friend Lana, who does Paradise Roadshow. There's so many people doing good things.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I think for me, like, I'll just say it so that if anyone else says it, I'll be like, I agree. Like, for me, like, I did a shirt for show class that said, if you don't belong, don't belong. And I didn't belong. Like, for me, it's not my thing.
Right.
I don't
right.
love motorcycles enough to really want to be around it that much. So, I mean, as I get older, I am so busy that if I have 5 things to do, I'm going to pick 5 other things besides get on my bike that, and when we started Boss Dog full time, I sold my last bike and I sold my El Camino and I sold my El Bronco. And it's like,
too bad.
I used to love all that shit, but
yeah.
I'd rather have the money I got from that to invest in doing a huge break. I needed all the money I could get to do a big
priority
shift,
right? I mean,
and I don't miss it. When I sold my bike, I was like, I'll get a bike someday, but I haven't had a bike for 3 years now, and I'm like, I don't really care.
Well, and that's cool. I mean, you can appreciate the culture. Obviously, I see a lot of it in the artwork. I mean, maybe you've definitely been moving away from it recently, but in the original stuff, I see a lot of it, and it's something to be appreciated because there was some fucking cool shit that came out. I mean, my first jerk-off magazines were Easy Riders from the 60s. I mean, like, I wasn't looking at Victoria's Secret. I wasn't fucking trying to find a Playboy, dude. I was looking at Easy Riders, you know what I mean, from whatever was left over in the garage, So that shit's built in my DNA. But like I said, what I realized later is that culture is that culture, and I think I will say that the biker culture now obviously has changed, right? I mean, with what all these guys are doing, making these killer fucking bikes out of these old iron heads and stuff, and they're changing the culture, and you don't have to be a piece of shit to ride a Harley anymore. None of that, you know what I mean? And I think that is good for the overall culture of motorcycles, but it still is a dangerous fucking world if you're a tourist, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you see videos of guys finding out real quick when they roll up on a fucking 100 HAs, you know what I mean? And they're patched into something that they're not sure about, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I don't know, man. But it's a trip,
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's cool. And I think the biggest thing that draws me to any of those worlds, it's like, I just love style, man. Like, I love the aesthetics of like cholo culture, fucking old school biker culture. Like, I can't get enough of it. And it's like, it informs a lot of like just the way I look at things. Like, but I mean, at the end of the day, what I do now is like, I work nonstop and that's my life. So.
Right. But it's joyful work, hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, times,
I love it. Like it's it's the only time I've ever been driven by a passion that relates to work. I guess being in bands was kind of like that, but I mean, you weren't living. I mean, I was always at a bartending gig or a restaurant gig.
Right.
It wasn't like I lived off my band. So it's like being able to have a job where I'm just driven. It's, I love it. It's great.
What was the switch in your mind? I mean, obviously you said you moved out here from Portland to focus on this, but was there a time in Portland where you guys, like, was there a catalyst to being like, you know what, this is something we got to fucking focus on. This is what I want to do. Like, was there a point where you realized like, this is fucking it?
Man, like I think I'm just a real slow fucker. It's like like emotionally, mentally, I'm slow to fucking come to things sometimes. And I think a lot of that comes from like I didn't come from a background where I know plenty of people that are like this. Like I was not raised in an environment where being an artist was something that was even remotely an option or possible. And so, there was always this idea that I wasn't around um I wasn't exposed to those worlds growing up. So as I grew up and I rebelled and I got into like all the stuff that I got into, and I'm living this life of being like this kid. I think I always had this assumption that I had to have a day job or I had to have a way to make money to do all this stuff. And then slowly, I think I realized that maybe there were enough signs there to kind of take a calculated risk, and that's what kind of, and just hating not doing it, I think, is the biggest thing. So
that's actually cool. That's a good point. Hating not doing it, right? I mean, when you have the absence in your heart from not doing your passion, right, and that's what drives you. That's a lot of people, a lot of things that people don't get to experience. I think, you know what I mean. And I contribute a lot of that stuff. And I don't want to speak for your thing, but a lot of that is based in this learning to do shit yourself, right? This DIY fucking it. And I've said it a million times on this podcast. If you were able to book your shows, book your own tours, take a chance on yourself, eat shit on the road, you know what I mean? You're set up in a way that normal people are not set up, right? To be able to talk your way out of a bad fucking situation in a bad neighborhood. Right. I mean, these are all massive skills that go so far in life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, I hear you. I think too, it's like, I've always looked at things where it's like, my goal in life is to basically have the freedom to do this kind of shit. And however I can get there is what I want to do it.
Right.
I'm not looking at it where the idea of success to me is just being able to do what I love and to do it like, and man, I'm not trying to write like a Hallmark card, but to do it with like,
that actually it'd be a good lane for you though, bro. I mean, maybe Hallmarks need
there you go.
Updates. Some boss dog Hallmarks, dude. Come on.
Probably make some money.
Hey, there you go, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think some people get overwhelmed by the idea of being successful. And I think for me, like what I was going to say, what you're talking about, it's like, I think it's really good to experience, humiliation, to experience trying a shit and not working. Mm-hmm. And just putting yourself out there, because it makes you come back. If you come back, then you really want it.
Yeah. If you don't quit, you know what I mean, and you learn from those experiences, you are making moves towards what it is you want to follow, right? I mean, and it's this whole entire society has been raised on eat shit, cash checks. I mean, essentially, you know what I mean? That's all we fucking are taught from the time we're children, that if you're not financially successful, you are a fucking piece of shit, right? And to be able to follow passion and then turn it into something successful is really, I mean, the American dream, essentially, right? I mean, however avenue you do it, it's just, it's something that a lot of people can't grasp. You know what I mean? Like, imagine telling any normal person, like, hey, I'm going to quit my job and be a full-time artist. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
What? That's on paper, all bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, did you go to school for art at all or anything?
No, like I mean, I've taken some classes, college level classes, in art itself and in like color theory, but no, I mean, design wise, very little. I think I took one class where I learned Photoshop and stuff like that, and that's been a big thing, is like, I was always very self-taught in those departments, and didn't really understand that what I was doing was graphic design, per se, and then kind of had, because I would always do like Photoshop for like punk flyers and shit like that, or I did my own zines, and didn't understand that what I was doing was essentially graphic design, and then as I kind of got exposed to more things and was around more people, I was around other people doing kind of what I like to do. And then it's like, oh, this guy's the art director for like this metal label. And like, this guy's doing like, covers for bands and he's getting paid for it. And it's like suddenly like exposing me to these ideas where I'm like, shit, they're doing the same things I'm doing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Why can't I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny too, because I mean, making flyers, making zines, you know, figuring out how to rip off Kinkos, you know what I mean, to fucking get an extra 180 copies out of them. You know, I don't know if did you guys do Kinkos up there? Was it up there?
Yeah.
Do you guys have the key cards back in the day?
Yeah, we whip
them on the ground.
Yeah.
Get that cycle. It's like I'd make 500 copies and pay for 240.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Stuff, dude. I used to love that shit. I mean, I spent hours in Kinko's making my own cover art or all these things, and I'm not an artist at all. I was absolutely pirating other people's cool shit. You know what I mean? But the collage, the design, you know what I mean? You figure that shit out, man. And it's
for cool. Sure, man.
You know, yeah. And I wanted to know, like, I mean, over the last few, I don't know, couple years, your art has taken a very like, how am I going to say this? Like, very hard stance on like mental health, right? Like a lot of the stuff it's all seems to be like, you know what I mean? Like it started, with this hat was one of my favorite, you know, I can see through your bullshit, right? It spoke to me.
Yeah.
I have a pretty gnarly bullshit meter. I can tell within 5 minutes whether I'm going to tolerate you or not. And that could be due to my own ignorance, right? But like, what is it about the mental health stuff that it seems to be kind of taken over in the theme of your art? I mean, is it just something from personal experience?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like one of those things where I feel like I started thinking about Boss Hog as a brand versus me just doing art, you know? And it's like I had to first get used to saying brand and just accepting the fact that we wanted to be a clothing label and all that. And then it's like, kind of look at it and it's like bands, you know, or it's like anything. What, like who, like the things that are really successful are the things that kind of just like put themselves out there in this like authentic way. And like for us, and I say us, like Sam and I, like we came at it like, okay, we're partners on Boss Hog. Like Boss Hog is no longer just me. It's like this clothing label that we both own.
Right.
And, you know, like our days, like I quit drinking, and, you know, because like, you know, essentially I was an alcoholic and like I had to get sober and I had to go through a really dark period for that, which I don't talk about a ton, but it was a period that I climbed out of. And then, you know, when you draw on like shit where you're like going to do something that sustains as a label, you're like, I have to be something that's authentic. Like I can think of really funny beer jokes, but I can't really make a shirt out of that because it's just not really me.
Right.
And, you know, I actually like a lot of stuff where it's like, I like mental health stuff, but I like, you know, some kind of like out there cosmic spiritual shit. And but you know, my thing is like, I have to do something that's like honest. And, and so a lot of it was like me and Sam kind of picking angles where I remember early on, I mean, I got hit up to do some lines for like Hot Topic and Spencer's and shit. And I just jumped at it because I was like, fuck yeah, I'll do it, man. Like, that sounds great. And then I realized, I was like, dude, I am not this person, you know? Like Steven Rhodes is one of my favorite artists and that dude crushes Spencer's. If you're not familiar, he's amazing. Yeah. But he does really funny shit. And I was like, man, I can't do this stuff authentically. Like it's stressing me out. So basically it's like the stuff that I do that I've been doing consistently is just stuff that it's like, I'm not thinking, I'm just kind of going with it, you know? I'm not trying to be like, all right, I'm going to do this and it's going to fucking be rad because everyone loves marijuana and I'm going to do this fucking big pot leaf. Like, I'm like, dude, I don't smoke weed. So I can't really do that shit. I'm cool with it. Like, I don't have any hangups about it, but it's just like the stuff that really, that I draw from is like, you know, man, like I've been through real crazy bouts of depression. I've been through some tough times, you know, like that's what I'm going to fucking talk about, you know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, how long have you been sober?
Shit, a long time, like 7 years.
7 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's such a dark period, you know what I mean? Dealing with the reality of yourself, dude. It's fucking crazy. I don't know if there's a harder fucking task, you know what I mean, than, because I grew up like in a religious, like I was into this Christian punk shit when I was a teenager, right? And then walked away from religion because, you know, I got some pussy and then nothing made sense anymore, right? So, but I spent years like dealing with that, and I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do any of that, right? And I spent fucking years just not knowing who the fuck I was, like, after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I started smoking pot at like 21 and became a serious fucking pothead for about 15 years, you know? And I drink and I do these, I don't party too much, but, you know, but I'm at a point now in my life where I am really considering like real sobriety because I'm 39, I'm going to be 39. And I got 3 kids and I'm thinking like, you know, how much, I mean, what's the problem with taking some time off? You know what I mean? And really dealing with the inner trauma that I've fucking. Why am I drinking? Or why was I smoking 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 blunts a day? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, what am I running from? Like, all these questions are fucking terrifying to ask, you know, and
Yeah.
especially if mental health has become such a massive conversation, you know, and the white trash fucking savage in me is kind of like, okay, we got it. You know, mental health, fucking, can someone just bury it a little bit and grind their teeth and fucking get the job done without the conversation of mental health, you know? But the other
Yeah.
part of me feels like it's so important. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny too because it's like I love the challenge of it because my go-to is to be kind of cynical and sarcastic, and I think that comes more naturally to me.
Right.
So that's another side of like what I like doing because it's like, man, it's not my natural state to like go for this kind of more because I'm always the guy that like when you say something positive or inclusive, in the back of my head, there's someone who's gonna like yell at, like make fun of you,
Yeah,
you know, and
totally.
like push you down and be like,
Yeah.
you know, and call you like an inappropriate name.
They're all, bro, you
And,
remember when you used to
so,
rollerblade? And you're like, oh,
yeah,
fuck, I guess. Ah. Yeah.
and it's like I kind of love the challenge of it all, and I think there was a period for me where the death of irony was like, it's like, dude, how many fucking Grim Reapers saying something sarcastic can we put on a fucking t-shirt?
Right,
I'm
right, right.
so fucking over it, you know,
Right.
and I feel like that period was over. So I really like the challenge. And it's funny because it's like it's gotten more popular now, which is a weird thing to see, but it's ultimately good, you know?
No, I mean, I think it's great. You know, it's just because it is when you talk about brand, right? And that's it's a term that all of us struggle with, right? But whether you're in a band or you fucking have a podcast or whatever, this is what it is. This is really what you're trying to build, right? So, I
Right.
mean, like rather than following trends, honoring yourself, honoring your art, honoring your challenges, you know, that's a big thing. It's hard to stay on that path. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you can't fucking follow trends because it just will die. It will fucking die. You know what I mean? So how?
Right.
I mean, I've seen you've been able to do that pretty well, but I mean, are you conscious of that a lot?
Yeah. I mean, I think I am, but I think it's more of in the sense where it's like, for me personally, I don't give a fuck. Like if I'm into something, I'm into it.
Right.
And generally speaking, I don't feel like I look at trends in a responsive way. Like this, take it for what it is. Like I always feel like maybe I'm on the other side where some of the stuff I do sometimes tends to be a trend, at least design wise. But, and I know it's probably, someone's going to hear that and think I'm the biggest asshole, but I don't think I'm not consciously looking at the next big thing going, oh, we got to switch gears now. All right, we're going to all be, you know, fucking doing this. To me, it's like, I just want to do what I want to do. You know, it's like
Right.
when I played hardcore, I was in a hardcore band, and then in the middle of it, I wanted to start a band with like keyboards, and I was in a keyboard synth band, and it's like, I've always been that way where I don't really care about staying in these categories where it's like, oh, what are my friends going to do to me if I do this, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing with Boss Talk that we have over like a lot of other places is that like we are artist owned. So at least we're doing our own graphics. Like at least we're kind of talking about things, and there's always things I'll always go back to, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and there's no longevity in following trends, period. I mean, there just isn't, right? I mean, it's been, you know, the Rolling Stones are the fucking Rolling Stones, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They are the Rolling Stones, you know, and the most successful people I've seen artist wise, especially, you know, when you look at fucking name it, you know what I mean? These people do their shit, and you either like it or you don't like it, you know what I mean? And the companies that do get caught up in these trends, or you know, even having the opportunity to be in Hot Topic or all these, you know, Zoomies, you know, all that shit I see your stuff in, and it's like, it's fucking cool, but it's not different. It is you. It's Boss Dog. It's fucking it's never, you might vary a little bit just to kind of create something cool or a collab, but I really respect the fact that it is you. You know what I mean? The art's not going to change per the store, or per the fucking pop up, or per the whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that like I challenge myself with is more technique stuff. It's like I wanted to get away from just drawing some of my go-tos on black. It's like designing something with a light color background and, not having the fallback of drawing a skeleton or a reaper. It's a challenge, and I made conscious decisions to do certain things only because I wanted to expand what I was doing versus like, you start to get tired of your own shit. And I think that's just evolving where it's like, all right, well, I'm doing this now. I'm kind of going in this direction. And some of it's not wildly popular. Like the way I'm doing graphics right now, I'm stippling a lot where I wasn't before. It takes me 10 times as long. I don't think anyone's noticing. It's not like I'm doing anything that people are liking more. It's just taking me more fucking time and,
more man hours. Yeah. I mean, and then, it's also people, you hear all this bullshit about you have to stay present on Instagram and you have to fucking post daily. And it's like, dude, it's not. How can it be like that? You're lucky to get in someone's algorithm anyway. You know what I mean? Just like a band is lucky to get 2 songs on a fucking playlist right now. You know what I mean? Like, so if you grind and keep your own path and keep your own thing, then you're going to be fucking, you're going to be doing what you do, and either people follow it or they don't. You know what I mean?
I mean,
being authentic to yourself is so important.
I think it's just, I feel for people that are like their only avenue is like social media because it's brutal, man. Like we try and do stuff outside of social media to make us feel connected to a thing that's not just, and we're not an Instagram business or whatever, but
right. And so, I mean, you guys did the store, right? You guys did a store recently.
Well, we're in a department store in Palm Springs, okay. And we're doing another one in Yucca Valley, which is right by Joshua Tree, and we got a couple other things in the works. So yeah.
So how has that though been able to connect with actual people who? I mean, obviously the online presence is fine, answering DMs, all that shit, but like it's got to be so much more gratifying to see the physical product in a physical store, being able to meet the fucking person that did it, or that. Is all buying your stuff. I mean, that's so much more gratifying, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, that plus like doing, events. Like I always like to do flea markets and stuff like that. Like I'm not basing my income off of it, but I mean, every time I always meet someone, like
right.
I make really amazing connections whenever I do a live event or wherever I'm like in a scenario where I'm suddenly in front of my products and people are meeting me. It's like, oh, sick. Like I just met someone, and stuff always comes from that. Right. Even with Zoomies, like we started working with them more, and like every relationship that I've made in that world has been like incredibly positive and rad.
Has it really? Because that store is such a fucking. My kids love it. You know what I mean? And I buy shit there too because I'm a big fan of that stuff, and then the lurking class stuff and all that stuff. But it's just such a that store itself is I mean it's weird. You know what I mean? Because you go in and it's all skateboard culture, but it's weird, versions of the anime stuff is like taking over, you know what I mean? So now I go in there and I'm not even sure what's on it anymore. It's just anime images.
Yeah. The anime stuff I don't really get. Yeah, I mean, as far as what's in the mall, like they've been great to work with for
right,
sure.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as it goes, I mean, my daughter's super in anime. I think anime is the new punk, dude. It's when as we were kids, I don't know how old you are, but your punk era was fucking 10 to 16 or whatever it is. It's anime now, dude, because as having a 13-year-old, every single kid is into anime now, and it makes sense. I get it, it's cool, but it is foreign to me. I grew up watching the older shit, Akira and Ghost in the Shell and stuff like that, but it's a trip to me, man, when you're like, what the fuck is going on around here? It's just part of getting old. I mean, if you're in touch with the kids at 40 years old, you're probably you're a creep, you know what I mean? you would assume.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. But I wanted to ask, like, when you go to design something, does it start with an image? Does it start with a saying? Does it start with something? How does it start for you, like, as far as the design process?
I mean, now it starts with a text. It starts with it starts with an idea, like
Right.
around. It starts with an idea, and then usually Sam and I talk about it, and then narrow it down to a text, and then I'll lay out the text, and then I'll think of the design around that. If it goes any other way, it becomes a nightmare pretty quick. So
Really?
it usually is. It's best to design the art around the text and not vice versa, because there's been times where it's like I'll get halfway through a design and realize I don't like the text, and then you're fucked because you're staring at something and you're like trying to think of words. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like I just, you know, I think when I started doing it, it wasn't as common, but I just love the challenge of trying to do a full design where it's like text and the image.
Well,
And
doing
then,
it something in the framework of an idea, right? I mean,
yeah,
rather than just doodling on a page and going, "Oh, yeah, that's cool. Maybe I could do this." You know, like it's
yeah,
everything is a theme, right? I mean, it's a trip. It's got to be a challenge, you know?
it's hugely challenging, and then you kind of can't get away from it, and you're like I kind of get obsessed. It's like I'm so addicted to that that I don't. You know, recently I did a couple things that like had no text, and I really liked it, but it felt weird as fuck. I'm like, oh, it looks so weird. Like it doesn't say anything.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did it
Yeah.
switch?
So
Like, did it used to be just the art, and then you'd throw some shit in there? Like, was there a point it just all of a sudden it just flipped one day, huh?
yeah, because I mean, I think now it's just like I'm full on just a t-shirt designer. Like I'm just always designing apparel, and it goes back to like I didn't come into this world and announce like things like I'm a brand and we're a clothing company and I love drawing, I love design apparel, but I do, and I love all that stuff. So
Right.
over time, I've just had to get more comfortable with the fact that it's like I'm not really an artist so much anymore as like I really like doing clothes, and I love designing shit. So now everything I do that's design, that's art, is for design, that's for clothes, and that's just how it is.
Yeah. So you don't do art on paper much at all? Any like, do you
Oh
do
yeah,
actual original artwork and stuff?
yeah. I mean, I everything I do, like all the designs I do, starts with drawing. So I mean, it all starts with me still sketching and shit.
Yeah, but like, do you do an art show, like just art? I mean, at all, or is it? It's just not. That's not what it is now.
The only reason why I just don't anymore, like I used to do murals and I used to do art shows, but it just takes up so much time.
Right.
It's like that's where I'm at now, where it's like Boss Dog takes all my time, and so it's why I don't do commissions. And every time like I want to say yes to something, I end up just being like, oh, I should not have done this, and it just we end up losing money and getting fucking backtracked on Boss Dog because I agreed to do something, and it just, you end up having to get really good at saying no and just being like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Well, there's a freedom in saying no, right? I mean, there's a real freedom, dude. I learned it many years ago. Being the kid that would take any fucking show anywhere, anytime. You're like, I guess we're driving 6 hours. You know what I mean? The middle of fucking nowhere, and I'm not sure how much we're getting paid. And it became a point where I thrived in it. And my first answer is no. Even to my kids, they ask me for anything. I'm like, no. Doesn't matter.
That's probably really good as a dad.
I mean, it is, and then but my kids are fucking savage negotiators now. You know what I mean? Like no is their starting point, dude. And they come at, my fucking kids brought me down a PowerPoint presentation on why they wanted to buy a fucking parakeet the other day.
What?
That's like amazing. Literally, dude. Because I'm avidly against owning a bird. Like I think it's just it's fuck. First of all, they're annoying. They stink. It's fucking messy. We have a cat, 2 dogs, a fucking bearded dragon, frog. It's
oh my god,
it's a full house over here, bro.
But you draw the line at birds.
Yeah. I mean, dude, they do one thing. They fucking fly, and then you're gonna put it in a cage. Like,
yeah,
it seems so bad to me. And I just don't want it. I don't want a fucking bird screeching in my house. But these little savages came down last night and go, Dad, can we show you something? And they made a fucking 16-page PowerPoint with facts about birds, why it's fucking eating.
That is incredible.
And I was all looking. I love it. I love the effort. Absolutely not. Never in your life. I said, as soon as you move out of this house, get all the birds you want. It's fucking fine. There's birds outside. Go catch one of those. Not fucking happening, dude. Not happening. But
that's amazing. Where are you based out of right now? Like,
we're in Ventura. We live in Ventura,
right.
California. It's butts up to Oxnard. You know what I mean? It's hour north of LA. Santa Barbara. So we're in this beautiful little beach community, dude. And I've been here for I say I'm from the desert. I've been here since I was fucking 12 years old, dude. You know what I mean? I love it.
Ventura's rad.
Oh, it's awesome, man. I mean, it's just a beautiful spot. Weather's killer all around, but just the kids, man. And I think the power of no is something you got to build into people, dude. It feels so good to be like, I'm not doing that. No fucking way. No fucking way am I doing that,
I've definitely gotten better at it, but man, I have a really hard time. I'm like one of those like people pleasers, plus I really want to try I can't, I love the challenge of taking on things. So
right.
I always get myself in these situations. Yeah. I just did it recently. I said yes to
doing a project. Is that what you're saying?
No. That's always fun. This is fun. It's a good excuse to not work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just do it. And then Sam's always like, just like, because every time I'm like, remind me never to do this. She's like, yeah, I will. Sure. And you're going to do it anyway. So.
You're going to do it anyway, dude. Yeah. You're like an old timer's patient. It's fucking.
Yeah, totally.
It's fucking, you're like, what? When did I hate this? Oh, as soon as I started it, I hated it, But
I have gotten better, though. The thing that I've gotten better at is just realizing that, like, I'm going to end up disappointing them more in a prolonged, protracted way.
Right.
Because if I say no right up front, it's like, all right, boom, that kind of sucked, but it's over. If I say yes, then it's like I miss every deadline. I fucking, it's 6 months later and they're like, hey dude, do you still want to do that graphic for us? I'm like, totally. I'll have it for you like next week. And then another 6 months go by. And,
that's an artist curse though, man. That's a fucking artist curse. I mean, I'm a guy that has to have a deadline for myself. I don't know if you work like this, but like I can't get shit done unless I have a real deadline. Like people are depending on me. Do you work like that? I mean, is that how it works for you? Because I don't even get into gear until the fucking month before the deadline.
Yeah.
It could be a deadline 2 months out and I won't think about it till 3 weeks. And then I'm all, fuck, and then it's fucking off, and then I can't focus on anything else till it's done,
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like that, but with Boss Dog, it's more about like, it's like this weird animal, right? Because you're always kind of trying to stay in a place where it's like you're designing, but then you're also trying to figure out what would sell. Cause like, that's how we're trying to make money. So I'm always in this weird, like, I'm always trying to get graphics done. So I always feel like I have to be creating fresh graphics. And then when I'm not, I feel like weird and I've got anxiety because I'm like, we're not making any money if I'm not designing anything new. So I'm kind of constantly feeling like that. But when I have traditional deadlines, I'm definitely like a deadline person. Like, give me the date, and then I won't stress about it till like 4 days in advance.
Yeah, and then you're 120 hours in fucking on something just grinding. And I mean, are you a guy that hates your product eventually anyway? I mean, I'm not a nostalgic dude. I have a really hard time looking back on old bands I was in or things I was involved in is like nostalgic, I'm always grinding forward, like, have you been able to step back and look at your work and been like, fucking cool, man. Like you can appreciate it,
Definitely not that. I mean, no. So yeah, definitely.
Me neither. Like, me neither. I'm wondering. I'm waiting to meet the guy.
I definitely relate to what you're saying, but it's like when you hear your voice the first time recorded and you fucking hate it.
Oh yeah.
And then over time you get kind of used to it, but you always think it sounds weird. That's how I am now. Like I've gotten better at looking at something objectively and being like, and being easy on myself and be like, oh, well, it's 5 years ago. You weren't, you didn't know what you're doing. Or even 2 years ago, or even 2 months ago, I'd be like, it's all right. But it will always sound like my weird recorded voice. I'll never look at it and be like, oh, that's beautiful. Like it just always looks like, it's weird. I don't know.
Well, all you see is the flaws, right? I mean, that's it. If I recorded a record, everyone's like, yeah, man, it's great. I'm happy. I'm like, yeah, but I flub this one note.
Yeah.
That's all I can hear. It's the only fucking, and I had to learn to be able to walk away and be like, no one's going to know. No one's going to fucking know. And no one will ever fucking notice this. There's mistakes in Led Zeppelin records. No one knows. You know what I mean? Like it's just fucking, it's hard. It's hard. Like if you don't hate your product, I feel like you're done. You're stale. Right. I mean,
yeah, I will like wake up. I'll wake up in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. to go into the art room because I realize that like you know, like the text was like a half an inch off to the left. And like,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
you know, Sam's like just used to waking up in the middle of the night and just being like, he's fucking insane, you know? And then
Yeah.
I'll come back into bed and I'll try to explain to her, like, oh, she's like, dude, shut up. Just like, I just want to go
No,
back to
it's
bed.
3:30, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah, I mean, being possessed by your art and your passion is it. I used to wake up in the middle of the night with riffs, dude, and
Yeah.
I'd have to at least mouth it into my phone, or you know what I mean. I'd have to do something like, because if I woke up and forgot it, it would ruin my whole entire day. You know what I mean? And if I it's fucking weird, like being possessed by your own creativity. It's a weird.
Do you leave like notes to yourself on your phone? Like,
Yep. All
yeah,
day.
me too.
I have like, you know who Judd is?
Yeah.
Remember that hardcore?
Yeah.
It's like
Judd.
my phone is
Judd.
is like 17 Judd albums, dude. You know what I mean? It's like you know, like whatever. Or if for some reason I am playing, I have to record it at that moment. You know what I mean? Because I'll forget, dude. I got shit to do. I forget. You know, I'll forget everything.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's crazy how you will literally forget. And it's like, you know, that feeling of total panic. We're like, this was so rad. Like, what? I literally was thinking of this 5 minutes ago, and I cannot fucking remember it, you know?
Dude, I woke up last night, right? My kids we just got back from vacation. We went to Yellowstone. It was gorgeous, right? I mean,
yeah.
7-day road trip with 3 kids in a truck. It was, you know, about as Griswold's as you could get, right? I mean, everyone did good. It was fine. But we get home, we get settled. My kids are up till fucking 1 in the morning, and I got to go to work today. You know what I mean? And I wake up, dude, and like immediately I'm like, hey, dude, I got to fucking work in like 4 hours, bro. You know what I mean? And then I started, like at some point I'm talking to him like I'm a old miner. You know, I'm like, you guys, you don't go to sleep. There's going to be hell to pay. You know what I mean? Like I'm like standing on the top of the stairs, like, and then now I'm cracking myself up because I'm thinking of like a bit like where all dads turn into fucking old like gold miners in the middle of the night. You fucking kids don't know what you got these days, you know? You know, like, and so now I'm laughing at myself because they're looking at me like I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? And then I thought about it all night. About I should have written it down, and I wanted to make sure not forget. You know what I mean? This it's very specific line that I threw at him at 1 in the morning. For what? Like for like for what? Like what is it for? You know what I mean? But if it's not a riff, it's something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then half the time you go back and look at it and you're like, dude, that's terrible. Like, what was I thinking? But then I can never delete it. I'm like, well, maybe in 6 months I'll think it's rad.
Yeah, maybe you revisit it, and you never do.
So did you see any bears or anything when you're
dude, I saw all of it. I mean,
really?
Well, we saw bears and wolves in they have like a reserve, you know what I mean? Like a little, it's not a zoo, but it's a preserve thing. And then fucking buffalo and elk and the whole deal. I mean, it was, you ever been up there?
I went once, but it was like 10 years ago, and we just stayed one night. And
yeah, man.
Didn't really see much.
We stayed 4 solid days in the park, saw all the things. I mean, it was fucking incredible. I mean, as I get older, you know, I grew up in the middle of the desert and listening to old men talk about nothing, about like, oh yeah, I grew up around a bunch of gold miners, right? Like my dad literally owned a gold mine when I was a kid. And so like, all this motherfucker would talk about is how the mountain was formed and how the fucking wash and this is going to be the spot. And I just thought, I'm going to kill myself. It's 120 degrees and you old fucks are talking about nothing. And now as an older man, I want nothing more than to just stare at some gorgeous fucking mountains. You know what I mean? Or see some nature, you know? And I've been threatened I'm going to touch a buffalo. You know, I'm like that guy. Like I definitely want to touch something, you know? And I got close, not really? Close to touching it, but I got close enough to see what these things are. And I was like, "There's no way. I'm not that dumb, dude." And I actually saved a lady's life. Basically, we pulled over real quick on one of the roads, and there was a buffalo sitting fucking right on the edge of the road, just chilling. You know, and these things are 2,000-pound animals, right? And so I pop out about 50 feet away, and I'm taking some pictures of it. And these 2 ladies are just straight walking, like straight towards it. Like beelining. And now the buffalo, they're like 15, 20 feet away from this thing. And the buffalo's like, really, motherfucker? Like you could see he's like, oh, look at the balls on you. You know, and so I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, well, we're trying to walk on this trail. And he's sitting on the trail, you know? And I'm like, I wouldn't get closer to that. You know, she's like, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, fucking walk around, dude. Like, it's a two-lane road. Go around the motherfucker. And she's like, ugh. Like, all, like, doesn't he know that this is a trail? You know, it's like, you're going to get gored to death by this
It's
fucking
so
thing.
crazy, man.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
The day after we left, a kid fell into one of the geysers. You know what I mean? Fucking second degree burns all over his body. Like, people are real morons, dude. And you're in a volcano. That is a straight volcano when you're there. And it's the most gorgeous shit I've ever seen. But you realize real quick, like, we got a finite time on this planet, bro.
Yeah.
And if that thing blows up, we're all in trouble, you know? But,
it's funny. Like, one of the weirdest experiences I had during quarantine was Sam and I like went through, you know, we actually were working a lot because just we were stuck at home and our businesses there. So we went through this period where we worked nonstop and we were just super burned out. It was like the heart of quarantine and we couldn't figure out what we could do to like take a break, you know?
Yeah.
And so we were like, shit, let's drive to the Grand Canyon because like neither of us had ever really been. And it was something we could do isolated, drive. We were just like, we'll drive out there. And so anyways, we like, you know, we drove out there, stayed at a couple like Airbnbs that were like remote. And we get out there and as we're driving out to the Grand Canyon, it's all cloudy and this like thunderstorm starts happening. So it's super ominous, right?
Right.
And then we get there and we go and there's a decent amount of people there, but it's like quarantine, right? So it's not that packed. But we go and we're standing out on like one of the little things that juts out. And while we're standing there, we just hear all this yelling. And I was like, I didn't even put it together, you know, because as I said, I'm slow sometimes. Like I just was like, oh, what's going on? And Sam's like looking in horror off to the left and I'm just ignoring her. Like, and then I finally look over and I was like, what are those people doing? And this woman had decided she wanted to take a selfie and she fucking stood far enough back off the cliff that she fell off the cliff.
No.
And then the crazy shit was her like son tried to climb down to rescue her and then he got stuck. Yeah. And so then it was like this nightmare unfolded right in front of me and Sam, and we're just like never been to the Grand Canyon, and that's what happened. And then as we're watching it, so all these like rescue people were like rappelling down the side to get to this woman, and she had died. So her body is in this bush, and then her son is like screaming. It was like traumatic, and then literally like the heavens open up, and it was like torrential downpour of lightning and guys on like megaphones yelling, everyone get out, the park is evacuated. So we drove for like 2.5 days to go to the Grand Canyon. We were there for 20 minutes. We saw someone die and then we got stuck in a thunderstorm. We literally drove back. We were like silent for like 3 hours just driving in the van. Like,
what do you even do? I mean, holy shit, man. I mean, but that's how fast it can go. You know what I mean? Like, and people are I'm shocked. I'm still shocked every day how dumb people are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's seriously like like I'm really obsessed with that kind of stuff where we start Googling about how many people die in the park. And, because you're like, are people that stupid? And honestly, they are. Like, there's a lot of people that die.
The answer is yes.
It's like when you go down like the the dark tunnel of like Googling like amusement park deaths and stuff.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah. Geez, like these people, they just keep coming, man. They just keep cranking out these morons. It's crazy.
Fucking Darwin shit. You know what I mean? The Darwin Awards. I mean, I was shocked. We saw a really bad car accident right before we got home, and it was a motorhome split in half, and there was fucking bodies on the road, and people died. You know what I mean? And I'm at the last 3 hours of a 9-hour drive. You know what I mean? We've been on a 2-lane road for seriously 9 hours, like from we drove from Boise to fucking Bishop in one day, just because we were like we wanted to get the bulk done, and then Sunday would be a nice drive. But man, I mean, we get stopped and there's fucking 10 cars ahead of us, and I see a motorhome blown into pieces. I don't know what hit it. I don't know what happened, but all I see is cones around things, and they're putting fucking blankets over bodies. And it was just like such a hard reality dose of like, dude, how I did 2,500 miles in 7 days, not one problem, not one, and I couldn't even imagine ending my trip like that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
Because I don't drive fast. I don't, I'm not a speed freak or nothing. I mean, I'm doing 80 because I got a big truck and it's easy and there's no one there. But I'm not the guy that's whipping through traffic or nothing. I've done too
Yeah,
much
yeah,
touring in the world and I've driven too many miles to know what happens when you drive too fast, right? And
yeah,
I just, man, I mean, even the kids, everyone, it just ended up being like a silent fucking 2 hours, like,
yeah,
because it's like we didn't see the bodies, but you know what happened. And it
yeah. It really
goes so
makes you think.
goddamn quick, man. It can happen so quick, and you got to enjoy the little things, And I tortured my kids for 7 fucking days in a truck, you know what I mean, just to get that experience of them being like hating it by the end, but remembering that we did some fucking cool shit that not a lot of people get to do, Like,
That's awesome.
and
Do
that's
they
all you
like
can do.
camping? Are
Yeah,
they like big campers?
we camp a lot. We got a trailer. We
Cool.
fucking camp, I don't know, 15, 20 times a year. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'm always been an outdoor guy. My birthday for the last 7 years has been me camping. Like
Nice.
I don't want anything to do with it. You know what I mean? The party or anything like that, man. I'd rather
That's
disappear
right.
into the fucking woods or the mountains, But,
Oh
um,
yeah.
yeah, man. Well, dude, I much appreciated for. Please, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was really cool to have you on and
Yeah.
to be able to meet you finally.
Hell yeah, dude. Thanks for
Cool.
asking me, man. It was good. It's fun.
Cool, man. Please throw out any Instagram handles or websites, anything you want people to follow you on and all that jazz. If you want,
Well, Boss
go
Dog
ahead.
Art.
I'll give you some shameless self promotion time. How's that?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
BossDogArt.com is our website. And we do like limited drops because it's this company run by me and Sam. So my partner, Sam. So, we are doing everything. So we kind of try and do a limited drop, sell out. So we can just do orders for a week and then we can design and tie dye and do another one in a few weeks. So if you go on the website, there's nothing on there, check back. We do a drop like once a month. And yeah, Boss Dog on Instagram, all that good stuff.
Beautiful, man. Well, thanks
Yeah.
again, brother. I'll
Yeah.
we'll be in touch. You know what I mean?
All right. Thanks, man.
Beautiful, man.
Appreciate it.
All right.